Hi. I'm going to ask you who you think the most disagreeable artist in history is. That is, what artist would have achieved the height of being hard to get along with? You can choose any artist working in any medium. That would be sculpture, painting, architecture, from any era, from the present day all the way back to the Renaissance in Florence. I'm guessing you picked Michelangelo, and you wouldn't be wrong. He was hot-headed, jealous, he fought with the Pope.
How dare you interrupt me?
But Your Holiness!
Wait! You have your answer, now wait.
I will paint man as God made him, in the glory of his nakedness.
Over the Sistine Chapel ceiling, he didn't want the job at all. And he forbade his younger competitor, Raphael, the painter, from being let into the Sistine Chapel. While the ceiling was being painted, Raphael was let in by the architect Bramante, who had the key while Michelangelo was away. And Michelangelo was worried that Raphael was going to steal his ideas, and in fact, Raphael did steal his ideas. Michelangelo even ran off to Rome in the middle of all of this and had to be summoned back to the work by Pope Julius II, who he fought with profusely. So he was pretty difficult to get along with. But I noticed that many of you didn't pick Rembrandt. Let's do a behind-the-scenes look of the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam to see what Rembrandt was really like. Why do you think that is? What is his reputation like? If Michelangelo is portrayed by history as hard to get along with, then Rembrandt is actually often portrayed as having lived through tragedy. Almost everyone in Rembrandt's family died young, including his children and wife, and then later his second wife, Saskia. Especially hard on Rembrandt was the death of his young son, Titus, who he was very close with. But there was even more. His house was taken in a bankruptcy. He lost his studio and his school. Experts tell us we're supposed to be able to see the tragedy play out on the surface of his paintings. But what if I tell you that there is a different Rembrandt from the one the experts want us to see? A Rembrandt who is obstinate, stubborn, ego-driven, and self-obsessed, a workaholic, a terrible money manager, and incredibly cheap. What evidence could we find of that Rembrandt? Well, he was known to work endlessly on canvases and prints, painting and repainting sections over and over again. He was late with commissions on a regular basis. He was prone to take money for paintings without delivering them, sometimes for years. How did he lose the house due to bankruptcy? Overspending on armor and weapons that he used as props in his paintings, of course. He took on many students, and he may have signed his name to some of their paintings, owing to the problems with authentication as recent as the 1980s. The painting that exemplifies all these traits is the Night Watch, shown here. It's a group portrait of the militia company of Captain Franz Banning-Koch. Now, rather than the standard group portrait formation of two horizontal rows, Rembrandt created an outdoor scene where the members of the company were walking on patrol. Now, as I move through the museum here, which you can also do when you go to the Rijksmuseum website, you see that here is Franz Hall's depiction of another militia company in a much more standard fashion, like you would get in an elementary school class photo. Rembrandt depicted some of these people so far into the background that they actually refused to pay for the painting. The artist wanted to create something different, never seen before in group portraiture, the type of scene reserved for history painting or Bible depictions. But this is neither history painting nor a biblical allegory. The grand size of the painting was Rembrandt's opportunity to show what he could do on a really large scale. And besides being a dismal failure and going unpaid, it is really quite clear that Rembrandt is just wanting to do his own thing, regardless of what his customer wanted. He cared more about his own reputation than the actual commission that was supposed to advance that reputation. He was headstrong, but we see it as innovative today, complexly carving out time and space. Look at how he depicts the musket being loaded and fired at different successions. Look how the actors are all caught as if in mid-movement. And look how he creates character with every layered brushstroke. Again, he's painting and repainting as many times as he saw fit. In fact, this painting was so large, it's presumed by experts not to have been painted in his studio at all, but rather potentially painted in the alleyway beside his house with a lean-to cover. That meant that he probably had to work fairly quickly. That stands in direct opposition to how long we know it took Rembrandt to actually finish work, and it starts to not make any sense. But one thing is incredibly clear, that Rembrandt cared more about his own reputation than he cared about the commission itself. And that's why I think he's one of the hardest, if not the hardest, artist to have gotten along with. At least that's what his customers, who ran in droves to Frans Hals, who painted much more quickly and delivered on time.